Hey everyone, today let's understand work queues in Power Automate in a very simple way. Think of work queue like line at ticket counter. People stand in a queue and the counter processes them one by one. In the same way, in Power Automate, each task becomes one item in the queue. The system picks tasks one by one and processes them automatically and track their status. This helps keep everything organized and avoids confusion. Simple example. Now we will discuss why use work queues. Work queues help to handle large number of tasks, process multiple items in parallel, track the status of every task, improve exception handling and retries. Moving on, work queues versus queues in UiPath. The very first one, purpose in work queues, purpose to store and process work items or tasks, whereas in UiPath queues to store and process transaction items. Main use in work queues, background processing in cloud flows, UiPath queues that deal with enterprise grade RPA transaction processing platform in work queues, that is Microsoft Power Automate in UiPath queues, basically used in UiPath orchestrator. Let's talk about item type in work queues, that is queue items or work items. In UiPath queues, we have transaction items. Now, let's talk about processing in work queues, that is done in cloud flows and agents. Whereas in UiPath queues, that is done by robots and processes. In work queues, we have very basic retry handling. In UiPath queues, we have very advanced automatic retry. Let's talk about status tracking. In work queues, we have three types, that is in progress, completed and failed. In UiPath queues, there are many status tracking: new, in progress, successful, failed, retried, and abandoned. Work queues best for low code business automation. UiPath queues that is best for large scale enterprise RPA. And finally, let's talk about integration strength. In work queues, we can integrate with Teams, Outlook, SharePoint, and Dataverse. In UiPath queues, we can integrate with ERP, desktop apps, Citrix, and legacy systems. Moving next, dispatcher and performer. Dispatcher is process that collects data from different sources and adds them into work queue for processing. Here we have examples. Moving next to performer or processor. It is responsible for picking items from work queue one by one and processing them. Let's move to the Power Automate and click on work queues. Next, click on new, mention work queue name, click on create. We can see there is no data available right now. This is input Excel file that contains invoice data columns like invoice ID, vendor name, invoice date, due date, amount, currency. We will use this file as source data. Dispatcher flow will read each invoices from Excel file and add those records into the work queue for further processing by the performer. Let's create instant cloud flow. Provide the name here. For example, dispatcher flow. Click on this trigger. Then click on create. In this flow, we will use list rows present in a table action. You need to define location. Let's select documents the file name as CBS underscore invoice and select table. Make sure your Excel data is formatted as a table inside the Excel sheet because Power Automate can only read data using tables to iterate through all the records from Excel sheet. Let's use apply to each action. Inside the loop, we will use compose action just to print invoice ID for each record and test the flow. You can see here the invoice ID is INV1001. We will proceed with inserting these records into work queue for further processing. To achieve this, we will use add a new row action. Select work queue items. In the name field, we are generating unique ID using this function. In this work queue ID, you need to go work queues, select this and copy this one. Just making the changes. This is the ID of this work queue item, that is invoice WQ. In input section, we are passing the invoice details in a JSON format such as invoice ID, due date, amount, and currency. Processing result as a new. Select status as queued. Saving the flow now. Click on test. Click on continue. Click on items. As you can see, all 5 work items have been successfully added to the work queue. So we have successfully completed dispatcher part. Now let's move to the performer part where we will pick and process these queue items one by one. Again, go to create and click on instant cloud flow. Provide the name here. Click on create. Now we will use list rows action, trying to retrieve all new items from work queue. Click on this. Now iterating the records. We will updating each item to processing status. Before applying any business logic, we need to parse the JSON data available in the input field using parse JSON action. Now it's time to apply the condition. Currency is equal to INR where we will update work queue item status as processed. In this block, we will mark item as business exception. Now click on save and run it.